Hello and welcome back. Thank you for tuning in and for joining me today. We're going to take a look in this video at the atonement and what that is and what that means here in A Course in Miracles. And yes, for those of you who are experienced students, then this will constitute one of those lessons that is a review, yet one that we all need, because it may be the 47th time that you hear what you're about to hear over the next few minutes, that it will really make an impact on you, that the proverbial light may come on and you get it. So, especially for those of you who are experienced students, and in fact, this applies to all of us, we're invited every day to approach our practice, not just watching this video, but everything else that we do outside of this context. We're invited to approach it with what's known in spirituality as a beginner's mind. What does this mean? It means coming at it with an open mind, coming to our practice without assuming that we know everything. Assumption that we have it all down blocks our learning, because what if we don't have it all down? Yet, because we've heard it multiple times, we think that we don't need to hear it again, that it would be boring to hear it again, that it would be fruitless for us to engage one more time. These attitudes are, of course, pervasive in the modern world where people have electronic entertainment at their fingertips and easily get bored, expecting their device or the world that appears to surround us to entertain them and to give them fun and laughter, pleasure and comfort. You may get some of those, but it doesn't last. Nothing in this world lasts. That's quite obvious, yet we live our lives as though that's not obvious. And here we are studying and practicing A Course in Miracles. Well, nothing in this world lasts because there is no world. The world itself is nothing, an illusion. We certainly appear to be here. Emphasis on the word appear. And if this is all new to you, well, welcome, welcome. This is what A Course in Miracles is about, in helping us to correct our perception, to right our perception. In other words, to turn it right side up. It is fundamentally upside down and backwards and mistaken. So let's come at this and every discussion with a beginner's mind, a clean slate, not assuming that we have all the answers. That blocks us to the teaching in the first place, from the get-go. Let's talk about the idea of atonement, the atonement in A Course in Miracles. We're invited to accept the atonement for ourselves. So, what does that mean? Well, in the world, we think of atone in a vengeful sort of context. We think of it as exacting revenge on somebody or a group of people to atone for harm that they have done to us, getting back at them, exacting our revenge. It's the context of attack, guilt, and punishment. That is the context in which we appear to find ourselves when we identify as an ego, when we listen to this mistaken voice in our mind that says, "You're separate from your brother. He did this to you. Get him." We're invited to see things differently, to clarify, or to turn our perception upright. That's what this course is all about. Central to this is accepting what the course refers to as atonement for ourselves. This is the correction of our inner teacher. We don't see things as they are, so we accept our inner teacher's correction. We see ourselves as separate from everything and everyone else. We accept the correction of our inner teacher that that is not so. Central to this is our acknowledgement that the separation never occurred. This perceived separation from God, whom we think of as a separate being when we run amok, thinking we're really legitimately a human being, and that is our reality. Yet we know it's not our reality, or we wouldn't be interested in spirituality. Think about it. The separation never occurred. We're not separate from our Creator. We're not separate from our brother either. There is no separation of any kind. Accepting what the Course refers to as atonement for ourselves is acknowledging this. And this is, incidentally, what we do when we extend love. We're acknowledging that there is no separation at all. Our brother is us. When we truly forgive, this is what we're doing. We're acknowledging that the separation never took place. Your brother is you. You are your brother. We do this under the guidance of our inner teacher, who is part of our mind. It's profound. It's life changing. And as we say here in the world, it's a game changer. And that is, in fact, an understatement. Accept atonement for yourself. I accept atonement for myself. I accept atonement for myself. Rinse, repeat. It's a great habit to get into. What it means is that you acknowledge that the separation never occurred. Here in the world, we're afraid to look within because we think we'll see a massive black, dark cloud of guilt. We think we'll see our own worthlessness, guilt, and shame, our supposed sin. There is no such thing as sin. God has no ego to be offended, remember. There is no separation of any kind. We think that if we look within, we'll see our own sin, our own blackness, and we're afraid to look at that. And this is what happens when we pay attention to the ego, to this voice that says, "You're separate, you're separate, your brother has offended you. Better get him back. Aren't you going to get him back? Aren't you going to hit back? Come on, hit back." Or the ego will say, "He's going to hit you. Strike out first, preemptive strike." Yeah. When we pay attention to this voice, we miss the present moment. completely. We miss our opportunity to look within right now because the ego does not want us to. So the ego has us preoccupied with the past. Based on our past reference points, our brother is going to do this and this and this to us. And by the way, he's worried that we're going to do this, and this to him too, based on his experience with us in the past. See how that works. And we, under the guidance of the ego, assume that the future is going to be exactly like the past. So we preoccupy ourselves with that. We're either obsessing over the past or obsessing about the future, neither of which is the present, neither of which is here. The ego would have us ignore the present moment completely. Well, guess what? That's where salvation is. That's where awakening is now. It's now, right now. When else? The ego has us terrified to look within for fear that we will find our darkness. Yet, the message today is that darkness is not there. It is not there. It is gone. It, in truth, has never been there. We've only imagined it. When we look within, we'll find only love. For that is who we are. We'll find what's really there. Love. Our own limitlessness, our own being, identity, capital I. That's what we'll really find. Yet we're terrified to look, thinking it will mean our destruction and demise. Well, when you allow yourself to look, you may return to the world of bodies and separation, but you won't ever see it the same way again. It's said here in the Course that if you do, when you do, because you will, whether it's today or even in another lifetime, you will look within. So when you do, you can never fully believe in the ego again. It's not going to be the same. So we're invited to look. What we'll actually look upon is who and what we are. But if we remain afraid to do it, of course, we won't see. As a practical matter, all of this sounds perfectly obvious sometimes, doesn't it? I mean, here in the abstract context of a video specifically devoted to A Course in Miracles and spiritual practice, where we take the time to learn this thought system and to go through its foundational principles, its metaphysics, whatever, the stuff it says, whatever you want to call it, the things it says, the things it means. As we look at that in this context, some of this can seem so obvious, yet when we put our device down and go forth with life, we discover this fear, don't we? We run into our fear of looking within for fear of what we would find. In these circumstances, the first thing to do here is become aware that you're experiencing this. If you are not aware of it, how can you possibly be expected to do anything about it? So we bring this to our awareness. When it comes to your awareness that you're afraid to look within, please do not hesitate to ask the Holy Spirit for help. Ask Jesus for help. Ask your inner teacher for help and guidance in whatever words occur to you. Appeal to the help of your inner teacher. We said a minute ago, the Holy Spirit is part of our mind. Yes, the Holy Spirit is that part of our mind that sees through, right past and through and beyond all of our illusions, where our own vision gets stuck. Our own vision gets stuck at a form and doesn't see beyond it. Yet we're invited to look with the Holy Spirit and see beyond it. So it is quite natural when we're feeling afraid to appeal to our inner teacher for help. That's what we do. Whatever words occur to you are the words that you should use in your mind. That component will look differently for all of us. That's merely a distinction of outward form. The content, appealing to our inner teacher for help and guidance, is exactly the same. So it doesn't matter what the words are. Ask for help. You will receive help. Then the question is, will you accept it? Gifts are received the instant they're given. So when you ask for help, the Holy Spirit responds instantly. The question then becomes, are you willing to accept his answer? And are you willing to do as instructed, as suggested? Because the Holy Spirit will never force. You have to supply that willingness to ask and to do as instructed. What will that look like? Again, it will look differently for you than it will look for your neighbor or your spouse or your kids or anyone else. That is merely a distinction of outward form. The content, the essence of it, is exactly the same. So I hope that in approaching this discussion with a beginner's mind, again, not assuming that we know all this already so we don't have to hear it, I hope that you've gathered something out of this conversation that you can put into practical application. I mean, that is why these videos exist, to inspire us to practice. So, to the extent that questions arise, you're certainly more than welcome to ask those here. This is a perfect forum for discussion of all things Course in Miracles and spiritual related. And if you have not subscribed, please do that as well. A number of videos appear each week, and I'd love to have you subscribe and join us. This is the prompt in the corner of your screen, so go ahead and click that arrow, hover over that, and join us right here. Okay. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, and I will see all of you again very soon.